Welcome back to another episode of The Next Step, the podcast where we share real stories of resilience, adaptation, and overcoming life's biggest challenges with limb loss. I'm your host, Kevin Gray. I'm a bilateral amputee myself, and today's guest is co-founder Chris Ramlackham, who has an incredible story of survival, determination, and strength. Chris was just 38 years old when his life changed in an instant. He was feeling sick, and after a couple of days of not improving, his mother was going to take him to the family doctor. However, she changed her mind, thinking if she took him to the hospital, they'd get the results faster. So they called an ambulance to pick him up. The decision may have saved his life. Chris will pick up on the story in a moment. But before we begin, I have to say how incredibly positive Chris has been throughout his journey. Hey Chris, welcome to the show. Welcome to The Next Step.
Hey Kevin, thanks for having me on your podcast. How's it going today?
Yeah, things are going good, Chris, and it's good to see you. I'm really glad that you're doing this and telling your story because I think a lot of people um, will benefit from this. And you know what? One thing that surprises me, Chris, is that there are a number of people that I've talked to that actually have gone through the same thing that you have with strep A, and we'll get into that in a moment. But I know that the majority of people that have amputations are from diabetes. But it's important to note that there are a lot of other reasons why people have amputations, and we're going to get into your story, okay?
Okay.
Okay, great. So, Chris, let's dive in. Before we get too far, though, I want to talk a little bit about what happened before the surgery and before the amputation. I know that you had a successful career in accounting. You know, you were living your life. You had a very close family. You actually fell in love, and you had a great girlfriend, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But you had hobbies. My point is your life was a normal life. And then can you just tell us a little bit about what your life looked like before the surgery, before the amputation?
Yeah, sure. I feel like it's kind of just like what you said, pretty normal. Well, you work your Monday to Friday job. We would go to the gym, like usually about 4 to 5 days a week. On the weekends, we go hang out with our friends. We go on dates, we go eat, we watch movies, uh, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
nothing crazy here and there, but I would just try to get out and see my friends and family whenever I could.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that question is that, my point is that people live these normal lives and they don't expect an amputation to happen to them. And all of a sudden, it could happen to anyone and happen at any time, really. It happened to you, it happened to me. We didn't expect this.
Yeah.
And, we went to one day you went to the doctors, your mom was taking you to the doctors, and I don't know if it was your mom that made the decision or you made the decision, but you really weren't feeling well. So you kind of spun around and said, we got to go to the emergency room instead at the hospital. And so, looking back at that, how important was that decision? And what did the doctor say when you arrived at the hospital?
Um, so at that point, I actually don't really remember anything. I don't remember anything so that was on a Monday. I don't remember anything after Saturday or even from Saturday. I actually don't really remember anything. So I guess at that moment they were gonna take me to like the walk-in clinic, and well, not I guess my family doctor, who was kind of like a walk-in clinic, and they just figured it was gonna take longer to get all your tests run. So they figured let's just go to emergency. They'll take your stuff and you'll get an answer usually
Right.
the same day. Um, but kind of so I didn't make that decision. But even when I got there, I don't remember anything. From what I was told, they took me in right away, and it was just kind of like a lot of chaos. Everybody's running in and out. Um, my fiance, my mom, they didn't really have any clue what was going on. They were kind of just like looking puzzled as to why everybody's running in and out of the room when they thought I was just like had a cold or some sort of
Right.
sickness. Um, So that was kind of like the point. And then they were just told that I was actually really sick. So they just thought it was like nothing, but they told it was actually pretty serious.
Yeah, the way they described it to me is that there was a pile of doctors that just kind of showed up and nurses and were all around you and I think they recognized how sick you were. In fact, they told your family. I don't know if if you remember this moment or anything, but they told your family at the time that you'd only have a couple hours to live had you not gotten to the doctors and or the emergency department. And so, knowing that now, how do you feel about how close you came to losing your life at that point?
I feel like I don't even think about it. Um, I guess maybe because I wasn't really aware. Even now, looking back, it doesn't really affect me. I guess it probably, maybe most people would be. I guess because I'm still here, I don't really think about, oh, I was really, really close.
Right.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like a weird thing to explain, like, because it sounds weird. Like, what do you mean you almost died?
Yeah.
But I don't actually even think about it in that way.
Yeah, because you're a young guy, right? Like, how old are you? You're 38 or something like that?
Like, oh, I just turned 39, end of
39. Oh,
November.
happy birthday.
Thanks.
That's great. Well, listen, I think you're right. A lot of people would look back at that and say, geez, I almost lost my life, and I know at one point in my journey, I went into ICU and I was very sick. And my wife told me afterwards how sick I really was, and I almost lost my life. And I often think about that now, and I kind of think that it brings a lot of gratitude and gratefulness that I'm still here and I have a different perspective on life. I think that's how it's impacted me anyway. Well, listen, like so now you're in the hospital, you're in a coma for what, about 2 weeks, and then you realize what had happened when you wake up. Um, what was going through your mind at that point? Can you recall what we were thinking?
There was a little bit of confusion, maybe, because I don't think I necessarily believed what was happening. Like, I woke up and I want to go to the washroom, and they're like, so I'm like, okay, like let's get up, and they're like, no, you can't get up, and like I didn't realize that I couldn't walk. It's funny because now, even later on, as I started to try to get on my feet, it's hard. I like someone has to hold you. But at that point, I couldn't because like my legs were all black but I didn't know they were just bandaged.
Right,
So I was just trying to like get up, and the nurse was like, "No, you can't get up. Like you can't walk," kind of thing. And a lot of times I didn't really necessarily believe what they were saying. I think there was a little bit of a disbelief of when the doctor came in and he's like, "So we're gonna have to amputate your legs and arms." And I was kind of like looking at him like, no, bring me somebody else. Like, you clearly don't know what you're talking about. I'm not losing my arms and legs.
right.
So he explained a little bit more. And then he said, yeah, you could do other treatments to try to see if it helped. He advised that it wouldn't do anything worse. Like, it's not like by waiting longer, it was gonna like make the situation any more serious than it was. So I we tried some like hyperbaric treatment to like pump oxygen into the limbs and body to maybe help recover some of it, but it didn't end up working.
No.
So then they kind of later on brought another person in, and even then I still didn't believe him. Finally, when they actually explained why I was gonna you lose it because like it basically mummified my arms and legs,
Yeah.
there wasn't any way to bring it back kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, a lot
like,
of confusion and like disbelief of like, no, I didn't really believe anything they were telling me.
right. Yeah. And I mean, why would you, right? Like you're living a normal life and then all of a sudden you get sepsis. Like I didn't even hear about what sepsis was until, I started to meet people like yourself.
Yeah,
And
me.
oh, did you know about sepsis?
No, I had no clue what it was. I'm like, I didn't understand it. They said
Yeah.
like I had strep A, and then I guess that's like some sort of like infection or something, and then that turned into sepsis.
Yeah, that's my understanding is like strep A is like the bacteria that gets into your bloodstream. And then once it's in your bloodstream, that's when it turns into sepsis. And sepsis is essentially a poison of the blood, right?
Yeah,
And whatnot. So, I can't even imagine that, Chris. Like losing all of four of your limbs, I can't even imagine. In fact, I've talked to many people about this, and a lot of my friends would say, geez, I would just give up. I don't know how I would live my life without my arms and my legs, And what's the hardest part of coming to terms with it, Chris?
I actually don't think I have come to terms with it. I
Right,
feel like I can see it, like I can see it, and then sometimes you do sit there and I look and I'm like, no, like really, like am I gonna wake up one day? Um, and it's hard, kind of like when you're occupied, you still know, but you kind of like watch TV or you talk to people and or you're doing something. It's usually like at nighttime because like I have some hearing loss, so in my ears it's very loud, like it's a lot, almost like a loud white noise that's
right.
constantly in my ears. So you're trying to sleep, you have this noise going on in your ear, and then you have nothing else to do because it's quiet than to kind of think. So a lot of times I do look at my arms and I'm just like, really? Like, did this really happen? Is this, am I gonna wake up one day kind of thing? So in that terms, like, I don't feel like I've actually come to terms. Like, I understand it happened, but I don't think I've really come to terms about what happened or
Yeah,
accept it in a way, I
it,
guess.
it must be so hard to accept, Chris. I would get it. I think most people do. And when I say come to terms, that's really tough. Like I don't think you ever will come to terms. Like, why did this happen to me? Because it's not like diabetes, right? Diabetes, you kind of suspect that a lot of people lose their limbs because of neuropathy and blood flow and things like that. So when you have diabetes, it's kind of in the back of your head as you live your life that, geez, this could happen to me. Whereas you didn't even, yeah, I just mean it just came upon you. It was like,
Yeah.
you became sick and all of a sudden you were losing your limbs. So how do you come to terms with that? Because you haven't even had time to process it, right? So
Yeah. And I
yeah,
find that, like, not to say anything's not as serious, but because I have all four, I kind of can see how the legs feel and how the arms feel. And the legs are difficult because you don't have your ankle to kind of use your as your support and to balance. But when you put the legs on, you get a little bit of comfort, get used to it. But it's very hard not being able to grab things or hold things or open a bag of chips or open
right.
a drink, and you're kind of just like, wait, what do I do with these hands? Like you can't do anything.
Or
The
just
legs
scratch
is
an
a little
itch,
worse.
right?
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
my head scratches, I'm trying to like reach over with my arm and scratch it. Like it's completely foreign, not being
Yeah.
able to like just reach over and pick something up.
You
So
know,
like it's
but
definitely a lot harder not having the hands and not having the
yeah.
legs.
It's funny because when we were in rehab together, that's where we met. A lot of people know that already, but I would come into your room and you'd be having breakfast. And I remember one day you were actually feeding yourself because you got creative and created like it's almost this
A
um,
cuff.
yeah, exactly. And so you were able to pick it up yourself and whatnot. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like when you do lose a limb, a lot of people become very resilient and very, you adapt. And I noticed that when you were in the hospital.
Yeah, you kind of just figure out how to like do certain things, and there's definitely a big learning curve of trying
Yeah,
to figure out, because you can't even do like I was trying to open a drawer and it has a little handle, and it flaps, like it's not like firm, it kind of like goes
right.
down, and I couldn't open the drawer because I couldn't even get my arm to even lift the thing because it's so tiny. You need your kind of finger to kind of just lift it up. So even just small things that you don't think anything of,
Yeah.
it makes it very difficult. So you're always trying to figure out ways to do things. I'm a little bit stubborn, so I don't want to find a new way. I want to do it the same way I did it, and I'm gonna show you that I'm gonna figure out how to do it the same way, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I gotta figure out I gotta do it like differently sometimes.
Yeah, you said that a lot in the hospital. It's like, I want to walk like I used to walk. I want to be able to do things like I used to do them. Hey, listen, I know one of the other things that you said to me is seeing your family and Princess. Princess is your girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
Uh, and now you're engaged with her.
Yeah.
Having them by your side really gave you a lot of motivation to work harder in rehab. Can you explain that? Like, what role did they play in your recovery?
I feel like they played a very significant role. Um, Honestly, I feel like if they weren't there, I probably would have been like, well, what's the point, kind of thing. You
Right.
have no arms, you have no legs if you're by yourself. Am I really gonna try to work really hard to just go back and have difficult? But it's probably been like, yeah, just let me go. Like I'm good. Like it's fine. But I feel like because they worked hard by supporting me, and even just when I was gonna die, they came every single day. They were there. They hoped and they waited for me to get better. They always figured I would. So
Yeah.
I figured the least I can do is just try really hard. So every day in the hospital, before I got to rehab, I would work as hard as I could in the physio treatment that we had. I would just push and push and push. And then they would stand there and I would have to like not like prove anything to them, but I'd want to like show them like, look, I can do it. I'll do it. And then when I got to rehab, same thing. They would be come with me or and I would just try and I would push. And anytime I felt like I was tired, I'm like, no, I can do more. And I've always tried to keep doing more because it sounds weird, but it's like you're trying to like impress them in a way,
Right.
right? Even though they don't need to be, they don't care anyway, as long as I just do my best. But I keep pushing, and I'm pretty very competitive person. So it does help having even just other patients around me because when I see somebody doing something, I'm gonna try to do it better than them.
Well, and
And
it's
I'll watch them and I'll keep going.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why we started this podcast is that, telling people our stories and other people hearing our stories can really motivate them because they hear, some of the things that we're accomplishing, right? And one of the things that I noticed in the hospital is the support that your family really gave you. I was lucky enough to meet your mom and dad and your sister and your brother-in-law and whatnot, and what a wonderful family, Chris. And it's no wonder that you were so motivated to try to impress them, right? They were there by your side all the time, and Princess especially, working. Holding a full-time job and coming into the hospital and working in the hospital and being there for you is incredible. In fact, you even got engaged with her, right? So congratulations. That was in the hospital. And what did that mean to you? Like why then at that point?
Um, so it's kind of an interesting story. Um, the day before I got sick, literally, I got sick on the Saturday. On the Friday, um, I went to go look at getting the engagement ring. I went, we got the design, we put the deposit down, and then I didn't even remember. So when I woke up, like when they told me what happened, then I'm like, oh, okay, I remember. But I had no, like I completely forgot that it was actually the day before I got sick was
Right.
the day I went to go do it. And then we kept trying to like when I figured honestly, I didn't think I'd be in the hospital for like 8 or 9 months. So I thought, like, you know what? I don't want to do it in the hospital. I'll wait until I get out. And then 1 month would go by, another month would go by. And then it's like, oh, like we're not really getting out anytime soon because every time I talk to somebody, like, oh no, you're not ready to go home. So then finally I'm like, okay, let's just do it here. So we're gonna do it in the hospital when we were there. And then we had to wait for the ring to be finished because they were still making it. And then they transferred me to rehab. So it's like, oh, great. So now it was a change because we were going to do it in the hospital. Then I'm like, okay, like maybe I'll be at a rehab pretty soon. And then 1 month goes by, another month, and we're like, okay, maybe we're not going to get out of here when I
Yeah.
think. So I'm like, okay, let's just do it here. Like, I don't want to wait. Maybe it can be that thing that kind of like puts like a not a bright thing. You can't like maybe just makes the mood a little bit better rather than just being in this hospital sad and everyone just. I guess they start getting better, but it's like a bright spot kind of thing. So my sister helped me put it together. They decorated the outside at the rehab, and then we just kind of came out and we were able to do it there, which was it was really nice to kind of like just finally get it done because it was put off for such a long time, and then I finally kind of was able to like get it uh done.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so happy for you, Chris. I know Princess is a wonderful person. I'm glad that you guys found each other. I got to throw a bad joke out there, Chris. I have to do it. You didn't get down on one knee, right?
No, no. I was I was in the wheelchair, and then there was a little table with the ring on it in the box.
Yeah.
And then so it was so nice. Like my sister was able to kind of DIY like the little back garden at the hospital because nobody
Oh,
was back.
nice.
She kind of like did it all nicely, put up an arch and put like a little walkway of pictures and flowers and stuff.
That sounds beautiful. Yeah, so speaking of that, like you're now walking short distances, right? And without any kind of assistance, that's amazing. And I mean, some people never walk again when they lose both legs, and you're up and walking and doing it with all four limbs missing. So that's really incredible. And how did that make you feel the first few steps that you took with your prosthetics?
Um, so at first, yeah, just like when I was trying to get on my feet, it was actually pretty difficult to hold balance. I couldn't really even get out of the chair, to get on them, so they had to kind of lift me. And I had the walker and kind of push it around. And then like slowly, we practiced different exercises. And it was kind of again, someone just kind of pushing my buttons in a way. One of the therapists she said, like, you're probably gonna have to go home and have a walker. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna walk before I go. And she's like, no, no, nobody really walks before they go. They usually have to take the walker. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna prove to you. So I just
That's
took it as a challenge. I'm like, okay.
that's
So
your
every time we
competitive
took the
nature again.
yeah, like they would always walk me with the walker. Then occasionally, like me and Princess would walk. She would push the walker in front of me, and I would just try to like go and try to walk around the halls a little bit as much as I could, and try to find the balance. And then right before the last day, as I got discharged, I found the same therapist, and I'm like, I told you I'll walk. And then I kind of like moved the walker and I took maybe 10, 15 steps like on my own without anything. Not the perfect steps, but like it was kind of going. And then she smiled, said, good, good. I'm glad you proved me wrong.
Yeah, I bet you she was pretty happy. She didn't take credit, I hope. You did it all on your
No.
own. Not really. They're wonderful there, so that's
Yeah.
good. Um, so you're now walking. The legs are a little bit, easier at this point compared to your hands, right? So working with your prosthetic arms and hands, that's a whole different, category. It's a different process altogether. What's it like with your hands and arms at this point?
Um, it's a lot trickier. Um, so they're basically like, I don't even know what they're made out of. It feels like kind of like a wood material, but maybe it's like a hard plastic or something. Um, so they're okay. Like you put them in, it's not the most comfortable thing because I don't know, for me, it feels like your arms are in like these tubes and there's no feeling. So the way you, even if you touch your arm on the wall, you know your arm is there. You have a grip on your arm, but with the prosthetics, you don't feel anything. So even if you're on the wall, like your arm kind of slides or and stuff like that. So it's like a work in progress.
Yeah.
I try my best to practice. We have therapy 3 times a week, trying to practice. Um, it's the funniest thing because you don't really know what's causing the discomfort. Like, so for the longest time, I'd go to the prosthetist and he's like, "Oh yeah, it fits." And I'm working. I'm like, "Okay." And then I go home and it doesn't fit. And I'm not understanding why. And then just the other day, I realized it's the bandage. I have like a bandage still on my one of my arms because the
Oh,
wound is still healing. And that bandage that the nurse puts on was keeping my arm from going into the prosthetic. And it was only because we took that bandage off and they rebandaged us another bandage when I was at the hospital. And then the arm went in so much easier. I'm like, wait, I don't, but it was just bandaged the whole time. So it's like
right.
things like that that just kind of keep it on. So I just try my best to practice as much as I can, try to figure out how to like pick up things and release the hooks and open them and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's a lot different learning, how to walk on your prosthetics as opposed to your arms and hands being prosthetics. Probably totally different learning curve for both of those, right? And different
Yeah,
challenges.
yeah. The legs, it's a lot of balance. Um, so you once you kind of find your balance, you can kind of figure out how to walk. Yeah, your feet don't move, but you kind of can still feel it in a way. Like
Right,
even though you don't have your foot, that you don't have the same feeling, but I know if something touches my foot in a way, I can kind of feel that pressure on my leg. But
right.
on the arms, you can touch the arm and you don't know if you're touching something.
Yeah, and it's incredible. When we talk about prosthetics, like prosthetic hands, prosthetic arms, prosthetic legs, and the more I learn, and I'm not an expert by all means, the more I learn about the advancements in the technologies that are coming out, especially in the States. I talked to one person that she said she has prosthetics where she can actually feel that she's walking on grass as opposed to concrete. And it's because her prosthetic has a chip in it and it's wired up to her. I don't fully understand it, but I think all this is a journey for us. Like we're at one point in time, but we might discover better prosthetics 10 years from now. So I'm pretty excited about that. Listen, you are one of the most incredibly positive people I know. I was really impressed when I first met you because of how positive you stay. I've never really heard anything negative come out of you, and I know that you probably have moments where you're down and and feeling a little bit depressed even, right? But what helps you stay so positive in that mindset?
Not wanting to lose in a way. Um, I feel like my fiance keeps me like pushing. It's very, it's hard to kind of stay positive, and I don't even think I'm positive all the time, but I just feel like, okay, well, I have to push for them. I have to make sure that like I keep trying and trying, and anytime I feel like I want to like kind of give up, I'm like, no. Like even if it's just I'm on the bike at in physio and I'm tired and I still have like 3 minutes to go, I'm like, well, it's 3 more minutes. Like don't give up on yourself. You can just keep pushing, pushing, and then because I feel like once you start to kind of get in that quit mode, you're gonna keep quitting. If it's, oh
Yeah,
well, it's only like 3 minutes on the bike. Well, I did seven. Who cares? Like
yeah,
big deal. I'll just let stop going. It's just okay, that happens. And then you get in the mindset of like, oh, it's okay, I can just quit. And then you keep doing it. And then all of a sudden you don't want to complete anything because you got into this bad habit. So I feel like she keeps me like staying in like just do your best. You can keep going.
Yeah, and I've learned that there's a lot of, there's a high percentage of amputees that never get out of the wheelchair. And I think one of the things that motivated me is somebody came to me and says, "You want to walk?" And I said, "Yeah." They said, "Well, get out of the wheelchair." And it kind of hit home. It's like, if you don't get out and try and push yourself, then you're never going to do it. So, the listeners on the call here, they have to recognize that, you have to motivate yourself and push yourself all the time. And it's hard, don't get me wrong, but listen, what's you've got a long road ahead, Chris, even still, right? And you're learning your prosthetics. You're still learning how to walk the long distances. But you've come so far, and I'm really, really impressed and happy for you. What's your next big goal, do you think? Do you set these goals? Do you set big goals and where you want to be in, a week's time, a month's time, a six months time?
Um, I find set different types of goals. Um, like one, for example, is I need to walk by the end of the year. Well, not this year. I was trying to do last year. And not outside, but just at least indoors. I can kind of move around on my own and feel comfortable. And I feel like it took me a little extra, but probably by the end of last February, I was able to kind of like move around indoors. Still a little cautious, as in I still think about how I'm moving. Like
Right.
I can't just move freely and not think about it. I still watch how my feet go. So that was like one thing. Um, I said small stuff like, for example, my goal is to right now I'm leg pressing 135 pounds. So I told the therapist by the end of this week, so like this Thursday will be my last day of the week, I want to be at 150. So I need
Right.
to like add up to try to get to 150. So I have like small little goals that I want challenging goals, but I don't want unattainable goals because then if you never get anything, where's the point, right?
Yeah.
And
You get disappointed.
yeah, so I kind of just try to find goals that where you can kind of meet them and um they're challenging. Like you don't want to set goals that are too easy because then when you reach it, like who cares? Like you're not gonna feel anything, right? So stuff like that. I feel like it's good that we started this limb loss together, just the like the whole limb loss connections and the podcast, because it kind of like gives you something to work on. Like when we started doing it at the hospital or the rehab, sorry, together, and we came up with this idea to like, no, let's do this. It kind of gives you something like, okay, like let's move forward.
Right.
And in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, we can help other people, but it kind of helps us as well because hearing what other people have gone through, hearing what someone who's ahead of you, because even though like we were both in rehab together, in a way you were ahead of me because you had already gone through a
Right.
leg lock. So I was able to kind of pick your brain a little bit and have an idea of like what's my like path gonna be? What am I gonna expect? How does it work? How does the whole like just getting new legs work? And
Yeah.
even when we talk to people in the podcast and we talk to them in the group calls, you hear what they've gone through. What, like you said, you spoke to one person who has they can feel the grass. But
Right.
like I like hearing that stuff because I'm very curious, especially with arms legs, about what prosthetics are available, what's
Yeah.
coming to the pipeline, because that actually helps me to reach my goal because I want to be able to grab things with my hands and get some sort of hands back. So what's out there? What's a possibility?
Yeah. And
My
that's one of the reasons why we started this. We and I talked about this quite a bit. Is it's really about connection, right? And meeting new people
yeah,
because you can learn so much from them. And so the person that I heard this from, the person that has these prosthetics, I need to connect you with that person. So remind me about that, as we move forward. Um,
okay.
Because that's what it's all about. Limbloss Connection is really about connecting with people, becoming friends, motivating each other, supporting one another. And that's what it's all about. So I'm really, really excited to get this off the ground and really great working with you, Chris, so far. So, listen, we got to wrap up here pretty soon. So I want you to tell me, what kind of advice would you give somebody if they came to you and said, "Listen, I'm really struggling with my limb loss. I just lost my limbs. Maybe it's one, maybe it's two, I don't know. But when you lose a body part, you go through a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety and whatnot. So, what kind of advice would you give somebody that's just starting this journey?"
To me, I would think you have to find something to motivate you to get out of bed. It like me, it was just competition. There was no one to compete against, but I was competing against myself. And then as I went to rehab, I was competing against random patients who didn't even know I was competing with them. I would
Right.
just see them walking. I'm like, I'm gonna get that faster. But that works for me.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. So maybe it's you want to work hard for your family members. Maybe it's because you just want to do better for yourself, or I don't know, anything. Whatever can motivate you to get out of bed, because that's the hardest thing. Once you're out of bed in the physio, well, you just do it. Like you're
Yeah.
already there, so you just do what they
Yeah.
ask you. But it's getting yourself out of bed. What wakes you up in the morning, and you can kind of go from there.
So having that routine of getting up, working out, and motivating yourself is really important. So it sounds like
Yeah.
so. Yeah. Well, listen, it's really great talking with you, Chris. I appreciate your insight and looking forward to working at Limb Loss with you and helping other people and connecting with other people moving forward. So what an incredible story! Really great talking to you today.
Thanks, Kevin. Like, I'm really glad we came up with this idea to create this Limbloss Connections, the website, the podcast. So hopefully we can together like help a lot of people connect with each other, run ideas off each other, and everyone can tell their stories.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Chris, your story is incredible. Your strength, determination, the way you have embraced this whole journey with such a positive mindset is truly inspiring. Thank you for sharing your experience and showing others what's possible. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to The Next Step and share this podcast with someone who may benefit from it. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more inspiring stories from people in the limb loss and limb difference community. Thank you for joining us today. As always, remember, every step forward, no matter how big or small, is a step worth celebrating. Take care, and we'll see you next time on The Next Step.